is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Megan Shepard. Thank you so much for tuning in. Topping the news, the business community still trying to come to terms with the level of damage caused by Hurricane Durian. Some sectors of the business community were inundated with water, and some stores were wiped out. As they continue to count the cost of damage, the leader of the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce is giving his take on the way forward for the economy. Here is Jamila Mizik.
The state of Grand Bahama business is uncertain after Hurricane Durian's devastating impact on the island. That according to Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce President Gregory LaRota. He says the chamber has been reaching out to their members and the responses have been disturbing.
We've asked them to basically fill out a short survey where we ask basic questions to see where they are, what damages they had, whether they're open, intend to open again, what they need to assist them in that process. And we have found so far in the responses we got that more than half of the businesses are still closed. But what's really disturbing to us is we've also found that of the businesses that are closed, quite a few of them are saying they don't intend to reopen, especially from the small business point of view.
Now, LaRota says they'll be using that information to find out the basic immediate needs of those businesses and then communicate that information to the government and the Grand Bahama Port Authority to see how best they can assist businesses in getting back to normal. He says this is definitely not what Grand Bahama needed at this time, but he believes that the sooner businesses can get back up and running, the better it will be for the economy.
It's going to have a negative impact to employment on the island. At this time, there are folks leaving the island. We have a concern for that as well, because on Grand Bahama, one of the challenges for a lot of business was we just didn't have that critical mass. And we needed to look at how we could get more people to the island, not leaving the island. And so we have to also look at what we can do to motivate and encourage people to stay on the island, and those that are not here to even encourage them to come back.
LaRota adding that Grand Bahamians have demonstrated resilience and he has no doubt that they will rebuild. He's also encouraging residents to buy locally.
Think about supporting some of these local businesses that provide employment on the island. I know with the Exigency program that the government has in place, it's also available at local businesses that are up and running who would have already been providing bonded goods to the community to take advantage of that as well. So persons don't need to feel like to take advantage of that, they have to go abroad and import. You can get materials, furnitures, building supplies right here on the island and help in this recovery process.
Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
The government of the Bahamas putting in place an exigency order to assist hurricane victims with the importation of hurricane relief supplies. In order to qualify, importers must complete a simple one-page application form to benefit from these tax breaks. Our Romiko Knowles explains.
The declaration exigency is intended for the relief of persons who suffered loss or hardship as a result of Hurricane Durian in Grand Bahama, Sweetings Key, Deepwater Key, and the Abacos. The exigency order period is for 90 days, beginning September 2nd and ending December 2nd, 2019. The list of goods which can be imported can be found on Form A, which includes bottled water, clothing, food, and personal hygiene products. Superintendent of Bahamas Customs Larry Bodie says after the 90-day period, approval can be given by NEMA with respect to baggage goods.
Form A is very much in progress. Those forms are presently at the borders. Currently in Grand Bahama, we are at Old Bahama Bay at the Marina at West End, Grand Bahama Yacht Club Marina, the airport, and Lucayan Harbor. Persons who wish to bring in goods under Form A, the various goods are listed on Form A, and they can fill them out at the borders, as well as they could get the form from online and fill it out. But in any event, The forms are presented to the officers, and of course, with respect to completing your declarations when the goods arrive, once the goods are inspected, then the goods are released.
Now, for goods coming in as cargo, Bodie says it's a similar process.
In addition to you having Form A completed, you also need your freight papers. Most of the cargoes are generally dealt with through one's broker, customs broker. So the broker is expected to submit to customs freight papers, completion of Form A, invoices and the like. Goods are inspected and the goods are released, and of course an entry will follow shortly thereafter. What is also expected is that when persons or institutions are sending goods to recipients, it is important for the recipient to be named so that when the goods arrive at the borders, the officers will be clear as to who the recipients may very well be, so that it'll lessen any confusion that may exist at the border.
In addition, Bodie says they are facilitating easy access to hurricane victims wanting to purchase goods from local vendors.
Now, the process in that regard for persons who may wish to purchase locally, we have a section at the bottom floor of the C.A. Smith building called the Aided Industry section. All applicants have to do is to present themselves, complete Form A. We'll have a little interview with them to get an appreciation as to what damages they perhaps have incurred, and they identify the vendor which they wish to go to. We approve it, and we'll send them on their way.
And if you wish to purchase goods not listed on Form A, Bodie says you must fill out Form B.
So not only are persons able to take advantage of accessing the goods duty-free, VAT-free, processing-free, and of course environmental levy-free, they can also do so to those participating vendors locally as well.
Ramiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Switching gears, while on Grand Bahama yesterday, the nation's capital participated in the signing of not one but two heads of agreements with Carnival Corporation, a $100 million project for the development of a new cruise port in East Lucaya and an $80 million expansion of Half Moon Cay. As Jamila Mizik tells us, the Half Moon Cay project of Little San Salvador is operated by Holland American, a subsidiary of Carnival Corporation.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis on Grand Bahama announcing another agreement with Carnival Corporation. At the heads of agreement signing with Carnival for the $100 million cruise port development in East Grand Bahama, the nation's leader noting that Carnival Cruise Lines and Holland America Lines, which already has a cruise development at Half Moon Cay on Little San Salvador, will further develop the key.
HAL Properties, that is Holland American Line Properties Limited, was granted approval to construct a cruise pier on the north end of Half Cay, as well as supporting landslide facilities at the pier site, which would accommodate ships alongside. This capital investment will total $80 million. And this heads of agreement will also be tabled in the House of Assembly.
Now the PM says the scope of development includes
construction of aquatic facilities, including, without limitation, interior pools to support water park activities, beach restoration and maintenance, and artificial reef construction, including, without limitation, retaining walls, sea defenses and barriers, creation of artificial reefs and other underwater feature throughout the beach areas and lagoons, construction of a lighthouse or similar structure for recreational purposes only, construction of guest and cruise services facilities such as, by way of example, cabanas, spa service area, sports activity area, dedicated children's, adult only, and cruise swimming and recreational areas.
Now proposed are also construction of food and beverage pavilions and restaurants, construction of a Bahamian plaza featuring local craft vendors and a variety of food options, construction of zip lines, rock climbing walls, and other facilities for recreational and other sporting activities, and the development of park and or natural reserve areas. The capital investment is expected to total $80 million. Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
Now, as help continues to pour in meeting the day-to-day needs of residents post-Hurricane Durian, law enforcement officers are also receiving assistance from their counterparts in the Caribbean. Tonight, Grand Bahamas top cop says he is pleased with the level of order on this island. Officer in charge of the North, Assistant Commissioner of Police Samuel Butler, commending officers of the Royal Bahamas Police and Defense Forces for doing an exceptional job before, during, and after Hurricane Durian. He says that since the passing of the storm, additional officers from the Bahamas and also the Caribbean are now on the ground.
We were joining with greater forces from our Defense Force, and then the Defense Force was also able to bring on over 100 officers out of the Caribbean, and been helping tremendously. Many of those were from Trinidad, who's working along with the Defense Force. And then just yesterday, the police department got some additional help from out of the Caribbean. Persons from Dominica, a small team, Dominica, Barbados, St. Vincent, Grenada, I'm sorry, and they're here. We have 16 of those persons, and we really appreciate their presence. I was able to greet them yesterday and welcome them.
Now, Butler notes their role is general assistance wherever necessary in keeping this island safe and in order. They
seem excited to assist in whatever way they can, and so they are now working along with our officers and spreading themselves throughout the community. And that's very, very important to us to continue to keep our community safe and keep order in our community.
He says that he believes that officers have been doing fairly well in keeping the community together, adding that he also wants to give credit to Grand Bahamians, who generally want to be helpful, cordial, and law-abiding. But to the would-be criminal element,
but I want to be able to say to our wider community, please, let's work together. Let's truly be our brother and sister keeper. And all of you can play a role, particularly citizens who want to be law-abiding, by asking your loved ones, your family, close-knitted family, not to be one of those persons who are going out to seek to prey on the vulnerability of persons who are already at a point of distress. And I think it's hurt even more than under normal circumstances where someone may just enter your home. That's not right to do it. But in this kind of time, when persons have lost so much.
Lucaya International School incurring significant damage during the recent storm. Concerned about the time lost, school officials have made alternative plans to accommodate the students. Here is Jay Philippe.
Lucaya International School received major flooding damage from Hurricane Durian. The school has 9 buildings on campus, and 8 of them incurred 8 to 12 inches of water. Over the last 2 weeks, the school has been in the process of making the necessary repairs. Principal Catherine Dillette says school reopened on September 9th. Some of the classes are being held at the Ocean Reef Resort and Yacht Club, while other classes for the older students are stationed at the single building on campus that did not sustain flood damage.
So we have some of our students here on campus, our year 9, 10, and 11 students. And the other students from ECD, the 3-year-olds all the way through to year 8, are being housed right now at Ocean Reef Resort. One of our families kindly made it available to us. We're using their corporate rooms, and we're all set up over there just like a regular primary and middle school.
Dillette noting that the school board and the teachers did not want the students to be at a disadvantage.
One of the things we knew right from the beginning was that it was important to regain normalcy for our students and their families, and that really has made a difference in starting the healing process and getting our kids back into education and back with their friends, and they're excited, and our teachers have really, really worked hard to make this happen under very difficult circumstances.
The school is without electricity, and the administration has allowed some flexible time for school hours until electricity has been restored and the building repairs are near completion.
We are running from 8:30 in the morning until 12:30 at all three campuses right now. We're going to extend that time for our older students who are sitting external examinations in May, so they're on more of a deadline. They're a little more focused. They're getting ready to go to university, so we need them in front of our teachers. So we're going to increase that next week. Yeah, they're really excited. Our parents were excited. Our children were excited. It was really important for them to be able to get back into routine.
Chairman of the school board and founder of the school, Ms. Goodman, has been using her home for classes.
The principal and I, we talked and came up with the solution. You know, we just need to find another place for them. We were fortunate. I had a generator at my house, so we were able to put the students in my house. We did not have running water, but we made do. We have a pool, so the kids carried buckets whenever they needed to flush the toilets, and we made it work.
She says, based on observation, the students seem to be making the best out of their situation.
We have kids, one group that sits in the dining room, one group that sits in the living room, one group that sits, in the outside, and they make it work. And actually, there's a lot of learning going on. Maybe it's because they don't have access to the internet right now, so they have to focus on their learning.
I'm Jay Philippe, ZNS Network News.
The reopening of public schools remain a question of concern for many here in Grand Bahama, as many of the government schools are still unsuitable for students. District Superintendent Ivan Butler says that while there is no official date for the opening, it depends heavily on water restoration. He says that as soon as the quality of water is restored, a date will be given.
The water that's presently being pumped through the system in Grand Bahama, that's not safe for drinking. And so we want to tell you now that whenever our kids or your children return to school, their safety is of concern to us. And so we will put measures in place for them to have clean drinking water. So that will not be an issue once school opens. And we hope to open schools shortly.
Butler adds that work is being done to all of the schools in the Western District to ensure that once a date is set, those schools will be ready to receive students.
Work is being done on the West End, Martintown, and including this school. So we have some volunteers who would like to lend a hand with repairing a roof or a ceiling. Please see me. But as soon as it's safe, we will announce when our kids will return to school.
Now, despite sustaining some damage, St. Paul's Methodist College is now back in business. But as Jay Philippe tells us, there is some concern as it relates to enrollment.
St. Paul's Methodist College has opened its doors for students, teachers, and of course administration for the 2019-2020 academic school year. The private institution incurred 4 to 6 inches of flooding during the storm, which meant very minimum structural damage on the buildings compared to other schools in the area. Principal of the school, Juliet Spence, says they wanted to come together to give the students the best opportunity to learn in a safe environment.
On Wednesday, we had the students coming in just to get a feel of what it is to come back together, to have a camaraderie, to make friendships, to feel relaxed, not to be pressured with schoolwork, but to feel that they are back to normal, some kind of normalcy.
Spence says enrollment has decreased somewhat because a few students relocated to New Providence and also the U.S. However, for those who return, she says they felt a sense of excitement.
The students have been very good. They came out, we had about 120 students, and they were excited, ready to come back. And they performed well the tasks we asked them. I had Mr. Lang, our new coach, taking them on the field and having them do some games and something to bring them together as one, because we want to get back as a family.
The students would have lost up to 3 weeks of classes, but even with that, longtime school administrator Bruce Callender says plans have been put in place to make up for the lost time.
There will be some extra classes they'll be running. We usually do our best to catch up, particularly for the examination students. So we'll try and cover as much work as we can, even though we know we're a month behind. But we'll make every provision to make sure the students who are sitting the examinations are as well prepared as they possibly can be.
12th grade students Hannah Duncombe and Abigail Daly, whom both will be sitting multiple BGCSE examinations this year, says they are extremely excited to be back in the classroom.
I'm actually excited, but my thought during the hurricane was that school wasn't going to open until January, knowing that it's my senior year. I was really concerned.
It's actually a great feeling to be back in school with my classmates. We lost a couple of our classmates. Some of them went to the States and in Nassau, but the rest, I'm happy to be back with them. During the hurricane, we actually thought that school wasn't going to be open. When we saw footage of St. Paul's underwater, we were kind of scared about it, but we just got to give God thanks and thank Him for bringing us back today.
School hours for St. Paul's Methodist College will operate from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily. I'm Jay Philippe, ZNS Network News.
Thanks, Jay. The Road Traffic Department will be closed on Friday, that's tomorrow, September 26th, until further notice due to mold remediation. The Road Traffic Department regrets any inconvenience caused. The Grand Bahama Children's Home is in need of serious help. All of the buildings on their property were flooded during Hurricane Durian. According to the Executive Director, Sheila Johnson-Smith, the home is no longer safe for the 30-plus children that once lived there. So the decision was made to transport the children to New Providence, and they are now stationed at the Ranfurly home. The Scientology volunteer group traveled to Grand Bahama recently and are assisting with the cleanup process. Minister Fernando Lopez says volunteers are coming from all over the world.
Our group, the Scientology Volunteer Ministers, just at any disaster, we understand how much people need help, and really our goal is just to help stabilize, to help the people that really need, that may not be getting the attention that is needed. As we heard about it, we're obviously watching the news over there. People from all over the world. We have Scientology VMs, we call them, all over the world coming. So half of our guys are from Panama or Mexico. I'm from Florida, and we organized the group and we start sending them out as soon as we can.
He says the group will be on the island for the next 3 weeks.
Everything has a lot of mold, so we're helping clear out everything so that the children can come back as soon as possible, so the reconstruction can happen as soon as possible.
Hurricane Durian left many on Grand Bahama and Abaco with just the clothes on their backs. Aware of the level of desperation, a leading men's store opened its doors and extended a helping hand to hundreds in the community. Aratelia Hall reports.
Emric Seymour, former Grand Bahama Police Chief and owner of Esquire's clothing store downtown Freeport, extending a goodwill gesture this week. He says the store received some 2 feet of water during Hurricane Durian, and as a result, they lost some 70% of the inventory. He says they then made the decision to just give away what was left to those who are in need.
We decided that as opposed to selling these stuff at a discounted price, we would just donate them to the persons who would have been adversely affected. Persons in High Rock, persons in the east end of Grand Bahama, and of course those persons who have been here in Freeport itself. And so we started Sunday afternoon just giving away items to people who really need it.
Seymour says hundreds showed up, including some who were totally devastated and were left with only the shirts on their backs.
We extended this initiative to all persons, including our police officers. As you're aware, quite a number of them have lost extensively their homes, their clothing and everything. And so the invitation was definitely extended to the officers of the Royal Armed Police Force as well, who came in, some came in numbers and, to be assisted as well. They are the first responders, and of course we need to ensure that they are comfortable in terms of that, and they are comfortable, and in their surroundings and everything else, and to deal with members of the public. And so we want to ensure that they were taken care of as well.
Seymour says he, his family, and employees also serve those who were on the line hot meals. Moved by the situation, Seymour says he's never seen so much devastation, and it was so important for him to help as many persons as possible.
And so we were limiting what we give people, maybe 2 shirts, 2 pants, 2 suits, that type of thing, 2 shoes, to make sure that everyone don't get, one person doesn't get all of the items.
It has been 3 weeks now since the passage of dangerous Hurricane Durian, and many families are still trying to pick up the pieces and move on. The Smith family is among them. For them, it was a tough battle, and they are happy to be alive. Here is our Jamila Mizik.
Like many other families who live over the Casuarina Bridge, the Smith family's home was completely devastated by Hurricane Durian. Now, as they sat on the roof of their home waiting for it all to be over, they say somehow they found peace throughout the storm. 23-year-old Andronique Smith recounting the hours spent on their roof as she and her family watched Hurricane Durian's rising floodwaters quickly take over their home.
5:00 a.m. on Monday, my little brother woke me up, said the water was coming up. So we went and we started to grab everything off the floors, but we realized that it would have come up anyway. So 6:00 a.m. Monday, we went into the rafters of the roof, and we just sat there for a minute, just praying and worshiping. And at 1 p.m., we realized that the water was going to come into the rafters, that we had to find a way out. We know help wasn't coming, so we beat a hole into the roof to get outside. At 2 p.m., we went outside into the open. That would have been Monday. And we sat there until Tuesday. We came back down into the rafters at 3:47. So I think that's about like 25 hours or so. And then we sat in the rafters. The rafters were wet, so they was just moving up and down. But we just sat there until rescue came like 5:30 something that evening, Tuesday evening.
Mother Sophia Smith says they lived in the area for 15 years and spent every hurricane at home, so they felt confident that they would be okay. She says while on the roof, they worshipped.
We sang, we prayed, we sang, we prayed, and everybody, joined in. My son, who's 10, I've never heard him pray the way that he prayed. He prayed so much. It was unbelievable. Even when we came down on that Tuesday evening, his first words was, "I'm ready to go to church. I'm going to church every day." And we know that the praying and the worshiping, that helped us.
Sophia says if they had a metal roof, she doesn't think they would have been able to get out. She says she believes their survival was truly an act of God.
The Lord really kept us. It's like he wrapped his arms around us. The water was coming up on the opposite side where we were sitting, and it was coming over the roof. But the side that we sat on, it's like the Lord just kept the water right to the rim. The trees were blowing and they were dancing and they were bending. But the side that we were on, they were bent, but they would not broke. The other trees will broke around us. It was like the wind was going above us and around us. And it was 5 of us sitting on the rooftop. Nothing to hold on to. I had my dog in my lap. And like I said, we just sang, we worship. And it was amazing how we didn't blow off the roof or anything like that because of how heavy the winds were. But we know that the Lord had us.
The Smiths are thanking the persons who rescued them. The family says even though they lost everything, they are at peace. Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
Thanks, Jamila. And that's going to do it for us here in the North. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Megan Shepard. Be sure to stay tuned. The Bahamas Tonight continues.